I'm Alberto from the Unstoppable Creator. Welcome to everyone who joins us and to the people listening to the recording. Today with me, there's Jari Romer or Romer. I know that in the Netherlands the pronunciation is a bit strange for me because I'm Italian and I know English and German, but not Dutch. So welcome, Jari. Thank you for your time. And please introduce yourself, what you are doing right now, and as a creator, and maybe a bit about your past that I know is a bit different from what you've been doing, you are doing right now, and then we'll talk about your processes, your mindset tricks, and so on.
Yeah, thank you, Alberto, for having me. And I don't blame you on the Dutch part. It is one of the most difficult languages to learn. So I speak a few words Italian because I studied in Milan. So I don't blame you for the Dutch.
Thank you.
So yeah, for everyone here who doesn't know me, my name is Jari Romer, and I am the co-founder of the Right Build Scale publication here on Substack, together with Sinem Gunel and Philip Hofmacher. So that whole publication, that's where we help online creators, online writers grow their audience and like really turn their expertise into an online business. But before I was doing that, I had a different business, and I still have that to this day. It's completely automated. That business is called Peak Productivity, and it's basically a newsletter of about 13,000 people. And I created a bunch of like mini courses in the productivity space that I would like occasionally launch to my audience. That's a business I started about 4 or 5 years ago. And like I said, I still have it to this day, but I now completely automated it. So my main focus is really more on right build scale at the moment.
Great. And on Right Build Scale, you write the long form posts, you write short form notes on your profile, and you also build products, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I love building digital products, especially because you build something once, but then you can sell it forever, as I like to call it. Now, it might not be forever, it might be a few months, it might be a few years, but the fact that you create something once, you put the time and effort into it, and then you have a digital asset that you can sell over and over again with a high degree of leverage. That is something that excited me ever since I read the 4 Hour Work Week years ago. And I
Me
was like,
too.
yeah, I was like, I need to learn how this works. So yeah, I started with that in the productivity field, and now also doing that at Right Build Skill.
Great. So we will talk about all of these things. We will be together for about 40 minutes. So everyone who wants to ask questions, please put them in the chat, and we will try to reply to all of them. So first of all, nowadays, how is your daily routine, if you have one?
Yeah. So my daily routine, like I'm always working on different projects, so I wouldn't say that one day or that I have a fixed daily routine, but I do like to see my day in different blocks. So especially the morning and the afternoon, I could really treat those differently. So I like to use the morning for making and the afternoon for managing. So in the morning, I love, or I just really do my tasks that require the most focus and the most mental energy and the most headspace. So usually that is writing an article, writing an email, working on a digital product, right? Really something that requires my optimal focus and cognitive performance. That is what I do in the morning, because in the morning I just have better focus, and most of us do. And there's fewer distractions. So I like to say morning is for making. Then in the afternoon, usually around 1 o'clock or after 1 o'clock, that's when I do more managing. So that means more meetings, right? More calls, more administrative tasks, tasks that don't require like laser focus and deep work. Uh, that's usually how I structure my day, right? Really treating the morning differently than the afternoon.
Okay. And how long do you how long is your morning? How many hours do you dedicate to this kind of deep work? Let's say.
Mhm. Usually, I do two stints of 1.5 hours each,
Mm.
um, with a good break in between. So usually it's like 90 minutes of deep work, half an hour break, and then another 90 minutes of deep work. So like it's about 3.5 hours in total. And I find that
Yeah.
that is usually enough. Sometimes I add an extra stint, but then I find that doing that third stint of 90 minutes is already becoming a bit more difficult, like in maintaining focus. So if I do two good sessions a day of like really deep work, which means phone is away, notifications turned off, I'm not having a million browsers open with my email inbox, right? All
Yeah.
interruptions and potential interruptions, they need to be dealt with. So I can just purely focus on one task. And usually that task is like writing related.
Yeah, and since we are talking about focus, I asked this in my conversation with David McIlroy. How do you? For me, it's pretty easy to avoid distractions, like because well, I've been training for years, like email or notifications. My phone is just dead silent for most of the day. But what really distracts me or can distract me are my thoughts, because
Mm.
maybe I have some. I'm waiting for an email from a client because the work is stuck until I get that email, and I feel guilty because I'm not working on that. But I have to work on an article, for example, and those kind of thoughts
Mhm.
lead me to distraction. Do you have this struggle, this internal struggle, and how do you overcome it?
Yes, Alberto, I definitely can relate to that. I actually have the same thing. I'm not that prone to like checking Instagram or having my email distract me. It would be more, maybe you could call it worrying about stuff.
Yeah,
Um, and one thing that really helps for me is putting on music. So,
yeah,
especially like if I put on music, and that could be different types of music, usually things without lyrics, or I like to listen to Spanish music because I don't understand the lyrics. So that way the lyrics don't distract me, but it I find that that kind of blocks out my internal chatter when I put on music. So I really get into a flow state doing that. If I don't listen to music and there is that more room, then there's more room for my mind to interfere. Then that can still sometimes happen, yeah, where I'm like distracted by my thoughts or worries.
yeah. It's the same for me. In some way, I feel that music shuts off or maybe floods my brain.
Yes.
There's certain parts within my brain, and usually um, instrumental and also complicated music like progressive
Mm-hmm.
rock or
Mm-hmm.
symphonic classical that really gets my brain busy in a way. Yeah, you're right. uh, uh, Another tactic that David shared with us is to keep something close, like a post-it note or a quick ad app, a quick ad widget where you can just enter any external thought or
Mm-hmm.
task or idea that doesn't that is just a distraction, and you write
Mm-hmm.
that down and go on with your job.
That's a great point actually, because I've and research has also shown this, that when you hold on to a thought, especially when it's some like worry or an open to do, and you try to hold on to it, it's the Zeigarnik effect, right? It will keep like occupying brain space. The moment
Absolutely.
you write it down, you kind of park the thought. It's like I will get to this later. Then your brain can actually let go of it. So that's a really good tip. Yeah.
And there's a question in the chat. I like to do my walking in nature every morning. How do you balance out your self nourishment and workplay creating? It's something I was going to ask because you mentioned your long break, for example, and this is related to that. So how do you keep your, because you can have all you if you have low energy, it's very hard to stay focused. For example, so you need both to do that
Yep.
3 hours of deep work. So how do you find this balance?
I love that question. And I think I don't even do this consciously, but I found ways to like incorporate that into my daily life. So I do work a lot from home.
Yeah.
And let's say during that break, automatically I take my dog for a walk, for example, right? When I do a deep work session and I'm here upstairs in my home office. So when I go downstairs, my dog is excited. He's seeing me. Automatically, I'm also in like play mode because he's excited, right? Um, Usually I go for a walk with him unless it's raining, which it does a lot here in the Netherlands, unfortunately. But that way it's like already completely disengaging from work and just doing something else. I found that that works well. I like to avoid technology. So I like to avoid spending my breaks scrolling through my phone because then I usually get an email notification or a Substack notification, and then I'm drawn back into work again, and you don't really take a solid break. So if you can find something offline and mix it in, sprinkle it in your work routine actually, so you don't see it as okay, I need to balance my work and my play or my private life. But if you can like sprinkle it in here and there and just make it part of your daily routine, I think that can be really helpful. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's a matter of really disconnecting your mind, your brain from work in
Yep.
general. Yeah, because if you keep thinking, even if you keep thinking in the background, you're still burning brain energy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and even if you go to your phone and you're like, okay, I have a break, now I'm going to scroll through Instagram. Actually, to your brain, there's no difference between information being blasted at you through Instagram or your work. It's still information that your brain needs to process, whether it's like a 5-second Instagram video or it's your article that you're writing. Your brain is like, okay, we need to process this information. So if you spend your break scrolling through social media, even though it might feel relaxing or fun, your brain is actually still working. So now when you enter that next cycle of deep work, you have quite like burned a lot of mental resources and you'll be less focused.
Yeah, yeah. Many years ago, I was playing podcasts in the background uh, in, in every minute of downtime I had, and at a certain point, I realized it was draining, and I would like to listen and to learn, and so many more things. But yeah, sometimes I just, for example, during a workout, sometimes I just stop everything and maybe play some music instead of a podcast.
Mhm.
And after 5-10 minutes, I feel my brain relaxing. It's yeah, it works. Yeah, you have to to disconnect throughout the day, not just
Yep.
during the holidays or during the weekend. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And what's your writing process? Because you write how many, one or two long form articles every week?
Yes, but now I'm fortunate enough to work together in a team. So we publish 2 posts a week on Substack. One of those posts I write it, the other post Sinem writes it. So now it's only one article for me a week, which that's very easy to do. So I think a better example would actually be back in my Medium days, where I would write 4 to 5 articles a week and
Wow.
publish that to Medium. That was like when I was every day I was like writing, and that was really the chunk of my day. Now it also consists of like building digital products and building the back end of the business. But my writing process, one thing that's been essential to me and super helpful is to never start with a blank page. So I always have a list of ideas that I keep track of because you get your ideas not when you're sitting behind your desk. You need them the most, but you don't get them when you're sitting behind your desk. You get them when you're outside. You get them when you're in the shower. You get them when you're working out. At least that's the case for me, but it happens. Our subconscious brain is like
Yeah.
working in the background. That's when you get your article ideas. I made it a habit to always write it down. I have one place for it where all my content ideas live, um, and already write a few bullet points of what I want to include with it, and then I
Okay.
just park it there. Yeah.
Okay, so when you get the idea, you already have you have already have your bullet points.
Exactly, exactly. It's already there. So the moment I sit down to write, and let's say I'm not having any inspiration, I just go to my file of all my ideas. I pick
Yeah,
one, and usually there's already something worked out that now I no longer have a blank page, which I find really important because that way you get momentum, right? If you're just staring at a blank page, you feel discouraged, like I don't want to do this, I have no inspiration. Screw it.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
This is it.
And do you have a process? Do you have a strict separation between outlining, drafting, editing, or are you more instinctive when in the way you write?
I love that you call it instinctive because you can also call it messy. But I like your description better. Um, yeah, I would say that is more how I write. I write as the ideas come up. One thing that I have trained myself not to do, which took me quite a lot of time, is I don't want to write and edit at the same time. So
Okay.
writing, it's like, okay, now I just get my ideas out as like, even though it might look messy and a sentence might not be correct or I haven't found the exact
Yeah.
wording that I want to, but I just need to get the thoughts out. Because when I mix writing with editing, then basically writing, it's like, okay, I need to get my ideas out, but editing is being critical. It's like, this could be better.
Exactly.
Could be worded better. This is wrong. So if it's basically two different energies that you're trying to mix, right? One is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
creative energy, and the other one is like, actually, hey, this isn't right yet. So I try to separate those two tasks where I'm like, okay, now I'm just writing, I'm just getting my ideas out there, and later I will actually make sure it's all edited well and it flows well and it's optimized for clarity. I also like to use ChatGPT for that as to help me out. Where I'm like, hey, this is what I've written right now. Could you please optimize this, edit it for increased clarity, for example?
And how long do you spend drafting and editing? Because uh, I, I from what I gathered, I'm average and spend on an if an article is a little more than 1,000 words, I spend about 3 to 4 hours. But I know, for example, David McIlroy is very fast, and other
Mm.
people I interviewed spend at most 2 hours
Mhm.
when on a longer article. How long does it take? And especially how long do you spend on drafting and on editing? Because editing can explode for many writers. For me, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also definitely leaning more towards a 3 to 4 hour mark per article. Yeah, I don't get it how you're able to do it in 2 hours, but I mean, someone like David is he produces super high quality output, so it is possible. But for me, it just I don't know. I need 3 to 4 hours to finish
Yeah,
like 1,000 word ish article, and I don't necessarily have it depends per article. Some
yeah.
article, the ideas flow out very fast, but the editing takes longer. Other articles, it's the other way around, right? The ideas take a lot of time, but the editing goes very fast. So I don't have any fixed time for that.
Do you think something changed when you switched from 5 articles a week on Medium and now one article in terms of quality, for example, the amount of thought you put on an article or before starting to write?
Yes, absolutely. So when I was writing 4 to 5 articles a week on Medium, that was at a time where Medium worked in a way that if you produced a lot of quantity, you would end up growing way faster. Yes, you would still have to produce high quality work. You can't shortcut your way out of that, but quantity was like a very big factor in
Yeah.
your results on Medium. So I was way more focused on, okay, get an article out there in 2.5 hours. Uh, and I was more like a writing machine. Whereas now I'm like way more thoughtful of what idea do I want to share this week, because I only get to publish one article a week. Sinem gets to publish the other article a week. So I'm more thoughtful with it. And I'm also looking at how does this article fit in with our current strategy right now? What is the
Yeah.
next program that we're launching? What is the next big project that we are working towards? And how does this piece of content like get us closer to the results we are after with that product or with that project? So it's way more thoughtful. Where with the medium days, I would just write about anything that came to my mind.
Yeah. And so do you plan in advance your articles, or just a couple of weeks in
Mhm.
advance?
Yeah, we have a content system where we plan our articles a few weeks in advance, usually about 4 weeks in advance. We know exactly what article is being published on what day and who will be writing it, either me or Sinem. So we're very thoughtful with that. Then we do have a more longer term roadmap where we know, okay, for example, this week we're launching Mini Course Accelerator. So we knew that a few months ago already. So that way we know, okay, our content should probably be more about digital products and online courses. So that's something we know like months in advance. And to me, that was really a game changer, because it's like, okay, now I'm thinking more in terms of how do I use content to support the business that we're building, rather than just being a content creator and like, oh, now I'm just going to write about this. So it added a lot more strategic thinking to my writing process.
Yeah, Medium allowed that. You could just write a lot, but a lot meant 4 to 5 times per week,
Mhm.
and maybe even jump from one topic to another. And if you got lucky, the algorithm would reward you. On Substack, it's you. First of all, you need to stay within some at least a broad niche. You can't
Mhm.
just write about anything. I've seen examples of people publishing once per day, for example, that are successful, but outside the content creator and business and marketing niche. Um, I, I want to ask you about products, and I think it's the right moment right now. Uh, you had you created a lot of products for your previous business, and you are focused on small, mini, tiny products. So, how do you? What's your product process in general? Because you have to find ideas that are good. Not every idea will be a success, but you still have to guess. Um, you have to find the idea. You have to create the, the product. Maybe it's text based, maybe it's video based, and maybe you can repurpose something. So, what's your strategy for products in general? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for my previous business, Peak Productivity, I would create a lot of mini courses. The starting point of my mini courses were never what do I think is cool? What product do I want to create? It was always like, hey, what does my audience need and want? That was always the starting point, which it can be very tempting to just pursue your own excitement. But be careful with it, because if you are excited about a course or product, does not automatically mean your audience is. It definitely could be, but it doesn't automatically mean that. So I would always look at, okay, what does my audience struggle with? So I basically built the habit of always gathering data. Data in the sense of looking at your open rates. Which topics consistently get higher open rates? Which topics consistently get more engagement, more likes, more comments, more restacks on Substack? Which of your topics do people have the most questions about, right? That is already a first piece of data that shows you, hey, here's a potential idea for my mini course. Then, what I would also do every few emails, I would ask an open ended question. Hey, what is your number one goal right now? And what is the number one struggle you're facing? What's the number one obstacle keeping you from reaching that goal? So, for
Yeah. Yeah.
example, with my productivity audience, I would ask that question, and I would get a million different answers on what people's goals were. Goals were writing a book, building a business, getting a promotion, a lot of different goals. But the number one obstacle that most of them shared was I procrastinate. I make to-do lists, but I never take action on it. I set goals and I have big dreams. I never really do it. I never make any progress. I just keep postponing it. So that showed me like, hey, so many people struggle with procrastination in my audience. I myself in the past have struggled with procrastination. There is an idea for a course here because my audience is literally telling me this is what we're struggling with. So that is a topic I turned into a mini course, 2 hour course on how to conquer procrastination. And that really was my best selling mini course. So that generated about 60K in about a year and a half, because I listened to my audience about what they wanted, what I needed. Now, this might all sound very cool, but believe me, I've made all mistakes you can make. One of the first courses that I made for my productivity business was a course on morning routines because I was excited about morning routines. I was into it. I didn't check if my audience was into it. I didn't ask them. I didn't validate if there was demand. Created the course, launched it, and it flopped, right? So the main takeaway really is okay, validate your ideas, right? Ask your audience.
Yeah, yeah, and I heard you talk about the pre-launch or pre-sale. It's a technique that really works. We used it in our Italian business, and yeah, when you start selling before being ready, and yeah, it's was it? Did you use it regularly for your courses?
Yes, almost all courses I would do a pre-order campaign for it because, like you said, there's no better way to validate demand than already getting paid for a product that isn't even live yet, right? That's the best. Like, if people are actually paying you money, that's the best way to validate that there's demand for it. So, what I would do again, first analyze the data and ask my audience. Then I already have a good suspicion that a course idea on that topic should work, but you never know 100%. So then what I would do, I would set up a very simple sales page, write about, okay, this is what the course is going to be, this is what you're going to learn, this is the problem it solves, this is the outcome you can expect from it. So set up a simple sales page. Then over the course of 3 to 4 days, send out an email every day saying like, hey, this course is going to be live a month from now. I'm still working on it. It's still in progress, but you already have the opportunity to get it at usually a steep discount. So like
Yeah,
50% discount. Really reward people for being an early action taker and kind of like taking an additional risk on you because the course doesn't exist, right? So a very steep discount or a very high value bonus that's only available for those 3 to 4 days. So you kind of treat it like a launch, but you clearly mentioned this course doesn't exist yet. I'm still developing it. If you then make enough sales, then you know, okay, this is perfect. There's demand for this idea. I already generated sales with it. Now you have to actually go and create it. But once you have those customers that already paid you money, that's to me always was a big motivator to like, okay, let's create a really cool mini course.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And how long did you spend creating a course, like for example the procrastination course?
So by now, I mini courses take me max 2 weeks to create. And that's not even if I spend a full day on it, only a few hours per
Yeah,
day. But
yeah,
that's because I've done this many times already. Uh, like your first course, it's just like learning any new skill. You will probably have a little bit more friction. You will have to learn how to present on camera, learn some of the tools. But once you have created your first course, right, then the second one, the third one will be so much easier. But I would say take anywhere between 2 weeks and 4 weeks as a good window to create a mini course and really make it a mini course. So, not a course with 10 hours of video lessons. If you're excited about a topic, it can be easy to fall into that trap of like wanting to share more and more and more
yeah.
information, but really stick to the essentials. What does someone need to know to go from A to B? What are the essential steps?
Yeah, and about that, this for me has always been a great a problem because if I know the power of mini courses, we sold some, but when you think of a mini course, you may think, okay, I will deal with a very specific, very small problem. So in 2 hours, I can say everything about that problem, and it's a very complete course, but on a tiny problem. But if you address a tiny problem, you address a tiny audience, so you will make very little sense. And instead, the course you talked about was about beating procrastination, which is a very broad problem. So
Hmm.
how
Yep.
did you find I don't know the right balance between a short course and something that really helps people? Because if someone buys a course that promises to beat procrastination, but
Hmm.
to make it short, you have to keep it very high level and not give something practical, for example,
Hmm.
the course will not work and people will not leave good
Yep.
testimonials, will not buy again, and so on. So how did you find the right balance?
Yeah. So I always like to look at it. What are the essential steps that someone needs to take to go from A to B? In my case, to go from being a chronic procrastinator to no longer procrastinating. The way I would validate if it should be in the course was, if I take this lesson out of there, would they fail to achieve that objective?
Okay.
Right? So it's really like that way. It's like, okay, if I remove this lesson, if I remove this piece of information, would that like significantly increase the chances that they won't achieve that desired outcome? So if the answer is yes, then it needs to be in your course. So that's kind of how I did it with a lot of my modules for that course. So, for example, I wanted people to really understand that procrastination is deeply rooted in our psychology. I also wanted people to understand that it's something in the brain, it's neuroscience, right?
Yeah.
If you don't understand that core reason why you procrastinate, I can give you all the productivity tips in the world, but you're still not going to solve procrastination. So, yeah, look at the essential steps. What if I take this step out of my course? Will then someone fail to achieve the desired result? Okay, so then it needs to be in the course. If you're like, okay, but I have other cool tips I want to share, other resources that I could have in my course, add that as a bonus, right? Because now
Yeah.
you are increasing the value of that offer by framing all of those things as a bonus rather than part of the main curriculum.
Yeah. Or it may become an upsell. Maybe
Yep,
you launch later when you have a
yep,
large base of students for that first course.
exactly.
Okay, okay, thank you. Well, now you with Right Build Scale, you are you creating larger courses with respect to the past?
Yes. Also, because now I'm operating in a team, right? So with Sinem
Yeah.
and Philip, we can create bigger programs that aren't just video lessons, but they have months of support, community support, group coaching calls with it, even some one-on-one support. So if you're doing that by yourself, it's absolutely possible, but it just takes way more of your time and energy if you have to do that by yourself. So now we do launch bigger programs that have the video component, but they have that support, group coaching calls, community access to it, and that allows us to charge more, like charge like 400, 500, $600 or even more, because
Yeah.
it's a bigger program. Yes.
And by the way, you mentioned video. Video has always been the format for your mini courses.
For me, it has been, yes. I think video lessons have a higher
Yeah.
value and therefore you can charge more. This does, like, if you really don't want to appear on video, you can maybe create an audio course that also has high value. If you really don't want to do that, okay, maybe a written course, but I would say be very clear that it's a written course. I have purchased a course in the past, like years ago, that didn't say it was written. It just framed it like, okay, this is a course, you will learn this. So I'm assuming it's video. I bought it and then I just got sent a PDF and I was like, I didn't I didn't expect that. This feels like a disappointment, right? So be very clear about, is this written? Is it audio? Is it video? But I would say go for video. That doesn't always mean you have to show your face. You can even just record an introduction video with your face, but then all the other videos could be screen captures. It could be a PowerPoint. That's also an option if you are less comfortable with, yeah,
Yeah.
being on camera.
Yeah. Did you find it hard to move from pure writer to video creator, at least video course creator?
That's a great question. So I actually started out as a course creator and then I became a writer. So for me, it was easier. My very first course was published on Udemy. I don't know if you're familiar with the platform, but my very first course sale was like $10,
Of course.
and I was like, "This is amazing." So I started as a course creator because that's what I learned when I read 4 Hour Work Week, all those other online business books. Yeah, I read everywhere. Like, you need digital products if you want passive income, if you don't want to trade your time for money, right? So I
Yeah.
started there, and then I kind of like started writing on Medium because I was like, well, now I need to build an email
Yeah.
list and a bigger audience to sell my courses.
Of course, of course. So there are a couple of questions in the chat. So we have just a few minutes together. So if you have questions, it's now or never. Um, so Pallavi asked about getting discouraged. She says she got no sign-ups for a webinar, and says it's easy to get discouraged. I think we can talk about the larger problem of discouragement. um, it can happen, for example, if you launch a product like you
Mhm.
told before, and no one or very few people buy. So how did you deal in the past, or how are you dealing now when no one signs up, when no one buys, or in
Mhm.
general
Yeah.
the numbers are disappointing?
Yes, I can totally relate. Believe me, like I've been running online businesses for 8 years. I've had many more failures than I can count, and it is because of those failures that eventually launches were becoming bigger and bigger of a success. So if you see anyone online succeeding with a launch or whatever, like it can be easy to be like, oh, they're so amazing, and like
Yeah,
they are succeeding and I'm not. Probably that person went through a lot of mistakes and trial and error as well. The biggest thing that helped for me when I would do a launch and hardly anyone would buy, yes, it's painful. Yes, be with those emotions, be with the fact that you are discouraged. That's completely okay to feel that. You need to allow yourself time to feel that. But then, as quickly as possible, look at, like, analyze it. What did you do? What could you have done better? Ask the people who signed up why they signed up but didn't buy, for example,
yeah,
or ask people why they didn't sign up, or try out a new idea. Make sure that every, I don't want to call it failure because failure feels final, but to me that's not, it's just experimenting. When you run a lot of experiments, a lot of those experiments can go wrong, but only a few of them have to go right, and that can set you up for years.
yeah, yeah,
So
because you
treat an
can build on
experiment.
the one that work
Yes,
usually.
yeah, and an experiment can go wrong, right? And now you know that this idea didn't work or your approach didn't work. Cool, that's information. That's a lesson learned. Now use that for your next project, right? So just refuse to give up when you're in online business, when you're on Substack, when you're launching digital products, anything like that. um, and keep learning from your past experiences, even though it can be difficult sometimes. That's absolutely part of this. Yeah.
And then there's another thing that comes before. I think sometimes we just have to set the right expectations, because if you have, I don't know, 100, 200 subscribers to your list, and you try to sell something to get replies to a survey like Pallavi is sharing, uh, you probably will get two two sales, two, 5, 10 replies, and this is totally normal. We are used to see these huge numbers from people who have been doing it for 10 years, and have um, thousands of people on their lists, and those people are engaged. And so, but we are just starting, and we just have to expect, we are just have to set very low expectations.
Yes, and it's actually funny that you bring that up because one time I worked with a client of mine. She was really amazing, and she launched her digital product, or she did a pre-order campaign for it, and she said something along the lines of, "I'm only going to launch this if I make like 500 sales." I was like, 500 sales is a lot. That's a lot of sales. I was like, "How many people do you have on your email list?" And I think it was like 4 or 5 thousand people. I was like, "You're never gonna." I don't want to sound
1%.
discouraging, but you're never going to get that amount of sales. Even if you get 50 sales as part of your pre-order launch, it's a huge success. And I saw that that kind of like reframed her expectation of success. Um, and that was really cool to see because it's like, okay, you might sometimes have to like change your standards. I'm not sure if I'm still visible or you can still hear me, but to me, there is a black screen and I can't see you anymore, Alberto. Hey, Alberto, can you hear me again?
Sorry, it was overheating and the app crashed.
Ah, okay.
Uh,
But I think we are
yeah.
back again.
Okay. I know we have just a couple of minutes, so yeah, there was maybe another question, but yeah, no, I will let you go because I think the Android app, the Substack Android app, has some problem because it totally kills my battery, even with
Mm,
the charger plugged in, and now
mm.
it overheated my phone, which is the first time it happens,
That's not
to the
good.
point of crashing. Yeah, it doesn't happen with any other app. So,
Well, see,
uh,
this is what we're just talking about, Alberto. Whenever you're doing things in business, things go wrong. Whether it is a launch, whether it is a live stream, whether it is whatever, like that's all part of it.
you never know. Yeah. So I know you have another call in a few minutes. So I think just tell us where people can find you more about you, maybe about the next product you will be launching, which is very on topic.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I would say check out the Right Build Skill publication that I run together with Sinem Gunel, Philip Hofmacher. There we have everything about online writing, building your online business, creating digital products. And actually, tomorrow we will be launching our mini course accelerator. So that's a new program where you will learn like the step by step system to launch, to build and launch your first mini course. So if you're interested in that, also check out our publication. You'll have more information right there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And well, I hope maybe in a few months we'll talk again and yeah, talk about touch other topics maybe. Okay.
Sounds good,
Thank you.
Alberto. I'm absolutely down for it. I enjoyed this live stream a lot with you. So thanks for having me on.
Me too. Me too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.